Juanita, your thoughts on McConnell's talk of a national abortion ban?
Look, McConnell has spent decades and decades working to control women and people with a uterus that he's not going to stop now. He's stacked the courts. He's pushed forward this Republican control narrative. And so he's going to continue to go to the nth degree to get it done. He is not going to give up, and he's going to use every tool at his means to get what he wants. And what's frustrating is that when I hear this news, Alicia, I'm now looking at folks like Manchin and Sinema like, do you hear this, man? He's not bluffing. He will do this. And we know that his party will support it. And so now I feel like Democrats need to not only run back the tape of McConnell saying this, but add that into the full list of any other Republican who's behind it. Make sure that voters get a clear and succinct picture of what's at stake and what their day-to-day lives will look like if Republicans take power, not only in Congress, but in governorships across the country when 36 are on the ballot this November.
I'm going to loop back, Juanita, with you on this question of midterms. But Megyn, I want to ask you, we saw how Mitch McConnell helped cement this court, paving the way to reverse Roe. Make the argument for me for expanding the court and talk me through what that fight is likely to look like.
Sure, yeah. As ruthlessly as Mitch McConnell stacked the Supreme Court with conservatives who were hand-selected to get us to this moment that we find ourselves in right now, where they are on the precipice of overturning Roe v. Wade, is as ruthless as Democrats need to be in fixing that problem. And that means adding seats to the Supreme Court. Like I said, this conservative majority was hand-selected to get us here. There is no universe in which these 6 conservatives wake up one day and say, oh, wait, I want to follow the Constitution now. That's not going to happen. So we need to dilute their power over us, and that means adding 4 seats to the Supreme Court. And Democrats need to show that they're fighters for this issue. And one of the ways you can fight for abortion rights is by codifying it at the federal level, as you said. And another way to fight for it is to protect it going forward. And we need to protect it from the Supreme Court. So we should be passing the Judiciary Act, which would add 4 seats to the Supreme Court. That's pending in the House and in the Senate right now. It's a tough fight. All righteous fights start out kind of unpopular and difficult. But this is a chance, really, I think, for Democrats to lean in and let voters know that they have solutions on the table for this problem, because this court is not going to stop at abortion. Every other constitutional right that we care about that is not explicitly written down in the Constitution is now at risk. So it's worth fighting for both legislatively and to protect it from courts that will undo the progress that we can make in Congress.
Michelle, to Megyn's point about other rights that are at risk, even within the context of abortions, I want to talk specifically about medical abortions. More than half of abortions in this country performed with medication. The Associated Press reports, quote, the FDA last year lifted a requirement that women pick up abortion pills in person. Federal regulations now also allow mail delivery nationwide. Even so, 19 states have passed laws requiring a medical clinician to be physically present when abortion pills are administered to a patient. However, abortion law experts say it's an unsettled question whether states can restrict access to abortion pills in the wake of the FDA's decision. Michelle, your thoughts?
Unfortunately, we are in an era where the Supreme Court has already tipped its hand that it's willing to look the other way when states are attempting to do a runaround against either federal law or laws that have been established through Supreme Court rulings. We saw that in the Texas SB 8 abortion case, where Texas enacted a law banning abortions after 6 weeks of pregnancy. And Roe v. Wade is still law of the land. The Supreme Court issued a shadow docket opinion and basically looked the other way. So the Supreme Court has already tipped its hand that it's willing to look the other way and not follow what otherwise is federalism, which is that the federal law of the land is the law of the land. What the Supreme Court rules is the law of the land. And what we see now is that states are going to challenge that. And the states that want to challenge that, they've seen an open door invitation from the Supreme Court, not the least of which happens to be secured through this draft leaked opinion, where Justice Alito has indicated that there are several justices willing to sign on with the states' rights agenda when it comes to reproductive freedom. And that's a very dangerous proposition, not just with regard to reproductive justice, but it's a dangerous proposition with regard to all other constitutional freedoms, not just those that involve abortion, but contraception. And even we see the hand being tipped with regard to public education, as there are legislators now that say maybe we don't have to fund that either.